At some point, I'm gonna stray away from making controversial videos, but hey, that's not today. And I do think this is something that needs to be said. A lot of people have brought up a lot of issues with D&D in my comments. One of the side effects of being a content creator that nobody tells you about is that you're going to get a lot of opinions. Most of them entirely unasked for. So that's annoying, but it does help me see some certain things that I wouldn't have seen before. And a lot of complaints have come at me about D&D from D&D players, things they don't like about the game, or issues they have with the rules or the players, etc., etc. But I started to notice this really large trend of complaining specifically about the fact that D&D doesn't allow you to do certain things, and people have asked me to make videos on this. Videos about how to scare your players, which I have done, or videos about how to make combat more interesting, make combat more deadly, how to make players feel more engaged in the roleplay. And the more that I look at it, the more that I realized there was one single solution that could fix all of D&D's problems. Just play a different game. Now that is really, really difficult for me to say, and I understand immediately there are a host of issues with that statement. Yeah, it's easy enough to say just play a different game because you don't have to consider the time that it takes to learn a new system, the amount of time it takes to get the rest of the players to learn the new system, the money you have to put in to get the books, the materials, the time that you have to spend then setting everything up. D&D is dominant for a reason. It almost has a monopoly on the TTRPG community as a whole for a reason. It's because it's easy to play, it's easy to pick up, and so many people know it. Dungeons & Dragons is what you think of when you talk about tabletop roleplay games. And there will be people who will inevitably say, well, that's not what I think about, and that's awesome, but you don't represent a lot of people, you don't represent the majority, and the data is there to prove D&D has almost entirely monopolized the TTRPG space. So how can I so easily say that you should just play another system? And why am I saying that in the first place? Especially since I just talked about the fact that it's so easy to pick up D&D and everybody else already knows D&D, so why would you play something different? Well, I'll lay it out like this. Most of the complaints I see about D&D is it doesn't let you play certain types of stories. And we've all seen a lot of complaints on the internet about how much effort it takes to make D&D fit certain things. People will spend hours of time creating a sci-fi genre or a futuristic genre or a dark and gritty genre for D&D. And it would take a lot less time just to go find a system that already lets you do that. Now, as the DM, it's really easy to get hyperfixated on something and being willing to put in the effort. Getting your players on board with that is a little more difficult. And honestly, I think it's this huge thing that really needs to... What is that?
It's Halloween time, which means it's time for everyone to sit down and have their yearly Halloween one-shots.
Wait a second, what is this?
Prepping and planning can take a lot of time, which means you might not have the time you need to feed your players.
No, hold on, I didn't authorize.
So why not try today's sponsor, HelloFresh?
How did you manage to get...
Jay used HelloFresh to feed his players during his Halloween one-shot this year, and they loved it.
When did you film me putting down that food?
If you don't have time for shopping and learning to cook, HelloFresh will deliver food right to your door. HelloFresh recipes include ripe, just-picked produce that travels from the farm to your door in less than a week, and it works with your schedule.
What's going on? Who are you? What's happening?
Plans are flexible, and you can change your meal preferences at any time with just a few taps from the HelloFresh app. Not to mention, they send quick, easy, step-by-step guides with every meal so you can follow along and have food made in no time at all. Make sure your players don't get cranky by feeding them during the big game, and go to HelloFresh.com and use code PLAYYOURROLE65 for 65% off plus free shipping.
Oh, that's actually not a bad deal, though. It might be easier for you to adapt D&D to a new type of system rather than make your players learn a new system because they already know D&D. They already have the buy-in. You, on the other hand, want to put in the effort. However, I do ultimately think that you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot. Take, for example, Monster of the Week. Monster of the Week is a very niche type of storytelling. It's about your ghost hunters, your ragtag group of ragamuffins, almost the Scooby-Doo gang, going out and fighting a monster of the week. And so, yeah, why would a lot of people want to play that? It's pretty niche, right? Except it's almost not. A lot of people have discussed wanting to make monsters more scary, more terrifying. How do you remove the player's ability to constantly kill it and actually make them feel fear? Well, honestly, if you played Monster of the Week, it would be a lot easier because the game's designed for that. It has systems in place that allow it to not just immediately get one shot. It literally has systems in place and suggestions for the DM on how to make it an ever omnipresent threat without interacting with the players until it's time for a confrontation. And yet, it's still incredibly open-ended and it lets the players do almost anything they want. The magic system in Monster of the Week is almost non-existent. You could basically just say, I want to do this with Magic. And you just try and see if you can do it. Most people would look at that and call that insane, but because the game is made for it, it works out. And that's the main thing I've noticed. I will describe different types of systems to players, to people, to different people on the internet, and most of the time they will then present an issue with it. For example, I just presented Monster of the Week and its magic system, and somebody may say, well, that's ridiculous. Why would I ever let my players have that much control over what their spells do? They're gonna break the game. Well, what you've just told me is that Monster of the Week is not the game for you. You want a more war game-like story. In which case, go play Pathfinder, or even 40K. But there are games out there for your type of play style, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. I found that most groups do eventually find their own play style. They find what it is that they really want to play, and then they try and make D&D adapt to that. And I think D&D is an amazing springboard. It was meant to be simple. It was meant to be picked up. It was meant to introduce people to the TTRPG genre, and then people got annoyed that it was doing that so well that that's the only thing people played, because it was so easy to learn. But I really think it's a springboard. So many people talk about not wanting Wizards of the Coast to have a monopoly over the TTRPG space, and the way you do that is go play different games. And I'm not telling you to just go get a bunch of different games, spend all your money, spend all that time. No, use D&D. D&D is an awesome springboard. Bring everybody together, teach them Dungeons and Dragons, teach them how TTRPG works, how role-playing works, learn the game that way, and then find what your group likes, and go find a TTRPG that matches that. I honestly think this is an amazing way of learning what you like. And as I've been playing Monster of the Week with a different group, shoot, I can't imagine playing anything else with them. I think it's perfect for us. The drama that it creates, the mystery, the suspense, I think it's awesome.
She's mine. Tiff is. She's mine. I didn't want to tell her because who wants a drunk, unemployed dad, but...
Oh god, this is gonna suck so bad in a second. I want it known that I wrote it down before I said this. It says it right there. Leaves note for Percy.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
It's literally a quick little note that says, yeah, I know you're not my dad, but I kind of wish you were because my dad's a piece of shit. And, you know, that's why I got to tell you that the wizards are after me and I need help.
Holy shit!
No.
And I really do think that every group probably has a specific rule system out there that works for them, and D&D is a great way of finding it. But if you don't want D&D to monopolize everything, and you don't want everybody to constantly adapt D&D to everything, it makes a much less intimidating investment if you play D&D just to figure out what it is you want and go do something else. And if D&D is what you want, if a fantasy story is what you want, perfect. You don't have to go anywhere. But this way, it allows everybody to come together and then go find the specific things they want. And at the end of the day, we're all playing roleplay games. We're all rolling dice, we're all role-playing, we're all having a good time with friends, and that's specifically what matters. To try and help with this a little bit, I am actually going to talk about Monster of the Week next week. It's going to be a video that I go a little bit in depth onto the types of stories that Monster of the Week can create. I could tell you about how to play the game, but honestly, it's pretty simple, and there are plenty of videos out there, but I'm gonna explain why it's a great storytelling system and how it relates to D&D and how you can translate from D&D over to it. And hopefully, maybe I can make a series out of it if enough people are interested. But at the end of the day, I really just want everybody to have fun. So please go do that. And don't forget to go out into the world and make it your own.